Is Trump's plan for Maragazo or the Palestinian Riviera or whatever we're going to call it crazy like a fox? Well, we've got a very smart fellow to join us here to talk about it. Our friend David Harsanyi, senior writer at the Washington Examiner. David, so I want to throw this premise out there. I mean, I could just ask you, well, what do you think about what Trump said on Gaza? We both know it's not a fully formulated plan by any means. Trump could walk away from it. And, you know, of course, the usual suspects are freaking out about it. Other people are saying, calm down. Here's what I would say. Whatever the plan has been for Gaza has been a disaster for 20 years. So can we open up the conversation to not just letting it be the Hamas terror platform once again?
I guess I would preface this by saying, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen in the way he laid it out. Riviera to the sea, probably not. But I think it's a completely good, that it's a good, not only a good plan, but historically perfectly acceptable plan, not ethnic cleansing or anything like that. Not to get too into the weeds, but the Gazans themselves say they're refugees. They live in supposed, refugee camps that are cities for 70 years. Supposedly, they're waiting to go back to Jaffa and Jerusalem and all these places. If they're refugees, which they are, because in 1948, there were like 10,000 people or 20,000 people in Gaza, then why can't they be refugees in Jordan? Why can't they be refugees in Egypt or Qatar or Saudi Arabia or wherever? Trump is completely right to demand that or ask that other people take these refugees of war. Europe took 1 million Syrians in after the Syrian civil war. Anyway, so I think that's a completely rational thing to say. Will it happen? I don't know. And I think he's just trying to really pressure these other countries to do something. We'll see if that happens.
Well, see, that's the negotiation tactic part of it that I'm like, makes a lot of sense to me, which is it kind of forces the Gulf states, Saudi, the usual suspects to have to be like, no, you can't do that. That's not a good idea. Okay, what are you guys doing about it?
Well, they created this problem. They created this ethnicity, this ideology, after 1948. They created it, all these people, and they don't, and now they don't want, the truth is they don't want Palestinians in their country because it's problems. It's problems for Lebanon, problems for Jordan, problems for Egypt. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't see why. I don't think it's immoral to let these people at least, if you ask them, do you want to leave? Do you want to go to a safer place? Do you want to continue to be martyrs for Hamas? Now, maybe they're pro-Hamas, but I bet you a lot of those people will leave. I bet you 50% of those people would leave if they could, at least.
And I also wonder what is, the usual, MSNBC, Samantha Power doing commentary, or like whoever it is, like the usual people from that Obama-Biden access, like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. What do they think should happen? I mean, Gaza, there's a lot of, we've all been told, and we've seen the photos, a lot of rubble, a lot of destruction. One thing that I've said, and, this makes me very unpopular with some people, but I think I'm just pointing out a historical reality. For all of human history, if you've started a war and lost the war, loss of territory often happens. Loss of sovereignty, loss of territory is like you start a war, you lose a war, then things happen. But obviously they reject that. It's Palestinians, the ultimate victims, the whole thing. What do they think is supposed to happen? Like, what is the acceptable Trump plan? That's what I want to know. Like, what is supposed to happen according to the Democrats, the left, CNN?
They want Israel to give Palestinians a state. It's not even, they've not been losing sovereign territory. There's never a country there, Palestinian country. There's no territory for them. Obviously they'd lose territory in realistically, but there's no country there. It's disputed territory. Any autonomy they had was given to them by Israel in the first place. But yeah, they want a state. Like, yeah, just create a terror state right next to, next door that constantly attacks you. Reward them for the rape and murder of civilians that's been going on since the 50s, not just now, from Gaza, and reward them and give them a state there. I mean, that's what they want, which is insane. No other country has ever done anything like that, nor would anyone ever do that. We would not create a terror state right on our border.
See, to me, you've just laid out, and this is what I thought was so interesting when Trump brought up, and people were having fun with it, and the memes, like a Trump tower on the edge of Gaza and everything else. And, this is the era we live in now because of AI and X. But it's interesting. People saying what Trump said is crazy, but I start from the premise of what you just laid out, which is what those people want, which is billions and billions of dollars from the international community to rebuild infrastructure, which yes will be buildings and electricity and water again for these people, but it will also turn into, we all know, hardened facilities under hospitals and tunnel networks and missiles, and that's insane, right? I mean, this would be like we firebomb Tokyo, and then in the Second World War, and then afterwards we're like, you know what? We're gonna we helped with Japan, but we're gonna rebuild Tokyo, but we want the same people in charge, right? We're gonna resurrect Yamamoto, we're gonna put the Imperial Japan, the same regime with the same structure, and rebuild Tokyo for them. To me, this is completely insane.
What you just said is perfect. Now let's rebuild Germany and then put the Nazi Party back in power, yes. Right? Or let's rebuild. Same thing with Iraq. We went. Whatever you think of it. We didn't let. We didn't let Saddam Hussein take control again. It's like it doesn't make any sense. It is crazy. There's no one on earth who would do this. There's no the whole thing. Even the language we use: occupied territory. From whom? West Bank. We don't call it Judea. You know what I mean? All the language tries to create this inevitability of a Palestinian state. Well, I hate to break it to people. 70% of Israelis don't want it, and 20% of Israel are Arab citizens. So it's not going to happen. Yeah.
To me, I think so. This is the thing. Trump, they say Trump is crazy, and I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen the way that Trump has necessarily laid it out, but changing the paradigm or changing the basic structure about how we talk about this, I think is actually, it needs to happen. Let's come in and talk about DOGE here in a second, but our sponsor here is Birch Gold. Look, I'm convinced that we're going to see some great stuff happening for the economy under Trump, but the structural problems persist. $36 trillion of debt. Inflation, we saw a little bit of a hot inflation report just came in, a little bit more troubling on that front than people were expecting. What can you do? Diversify. And diversifying into gold and silver has been proven over time to be a great hedge against inflation, a great way to prepare yourself to keep the value of some of those savings that you have. And you can even transition an old 401k or IRA into gold. Birch Gold Group is who can help you do it. I trust Birch Gold Group. I just bought some gold from them a week ago. Get your free copy of Birch Gold Group's new guide about owning gold in the Trump era. Text my name, Buck, to 989898 or go online to birchgold.com/Buck for your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. That's text my name, Buck, to 989898 or go to birchgold.com/Buck. So, David, the opposition to DOGE is so pathetic that it feels weird to spend time for. This is how I thought, at least on radio, about this. They're acting like Elon Musk is going to steal old ladies' social security numbers to run some kind of a scam. Like what? When someone says we have found that the government is paying people on a literal do not pay list, the Treasury Department is paying people to the tune of billions of dollars. Now they can say, "Oh, we'll prove it," or I don't think Elon is just doing this for his jollies and he's lying about this, right? But when they say that, and the response is, "Do you have the proper training to access this data?" It starts to make me think that they want this to continue, even though it seems insane. What do you make of what DOGE is doing in the opposition to it so far?
Oh man, it's a big topic, but I'd say the first thing I think about is that for 20 plus years I've been writing about politics. One of the big topics has been the administrative state and how unelected bureaucrats run our lives. They don't govern us. They lord over us and run our lives, from our cars to our straws to what. Never heard a Democrat complain about the unelected nature of that. And in fact, even when they lose elections, they know that those huge bureaucracies are just going to continue the left-wing mission, right? So that's why they're freaking out that you're going to gut these things, or there's going to be transparency. And the idea that Elon Musk is in there, gathering social security numbers so he could sell you a Tesla is ridiculous. The guy's the richest guy on. It's counterintuitive, but the richer you are, the less you actually need to want to do things like that. I don't think he's a corrupt person, and we have zero evidence that that's true. So Democrats look right now more feckless and aimless and weak than I've seen any party in American politics looks, except maybe for the Republicans in 2008, right?
After the financial collapse and all the wars and everything. Right. I mean, that's the only thing that comes close.
I just want to see how they come back from this, right? And we don't have a legitimate opposition party right now. That doesn't mean they can't win elections and stuff, but what is their message here? We need to keep sending, money for Peruvian cross-gendered comic books. I mean, it's such a bad message. No normie who moved from the Democrats to the Republicans in this last election cares about USAID at all. They don't even know what it is. All they know is that's waste. Yeah.
It seems like they've almost fallen into a trap, David, which is that this Trump administration, it's different than the first time around in 2017 when they kind of went for some hot button issues that were going to be. This Trump administration came in and said, let's just do the things that normal people think the government should do. Like, let's tackle problems that a normal person who's not overly ideological can recognize as a problem. And the Democrats are just reflexively freaking out about it. To me, it's like we need more of this. We need more of them telling people, let's not have the most impressive CEO and the richest man in the world looking at the Treasury Department's balance sheet and figuring out how to give back hundreds of billions of dollars effectively to the taxpayer. Like, they're opposed to this. And I don't think they understand how crazy that sounds.
I love when they say that thing only costs $350 million. You're not really saving anything. Like, to a normal person, I was talking about this with someone recently. For a normal person, the smaller the number, the actually more real it becomes. Like 350 million and 350 billion to me are the same thing. Like, it's beyond my scope of understanding. But when you start talking about, they're sending $100,000 to a Peruvian cross-dressing comic book artist, that means something. It means that the government is engaged in things that's not supposed to be, and people can understand it. So, yeah, I agree.
By the way, I also think this is a very good point. I might actually borrow this, David, and talk about this on the radio tomorrow, if that's okay. But it's a very good point you make here. I'll be like, my friend David Harsanyi said on the podcast, which is that when the number, with some of this stuff we're seeing, like you're talking about the 100K to the Peruvian transgender comic thing, right? People see this and they go, because that's such a small number and so specific that it looks kind of like a payoff, or, it looks like graft. When you're talking about a program that's $30 billion, yeah, we understand that's a lot of money, but it's like, what is it doing? And it's broad and it passes through a lot of hands. But when some NGO with like 4 employees who are all somehow making $400,000 or $500,000 or $250,000, $300,000 is getting $4 million from the government every year, and no one even knows what they do or how this happened. That's to anyone who's ever run a small business or tried to just balance their own checkbook. They're like, why are they getting $4 million to just do whatever they want from the taxpayer?
I mean, most normies in America could use $120,000, right? Like, they can envision how that changes their lives and how it makes their lives better. And Democrats are just like, that's not going to really cut the deficit. Yeah, it's not, because you guys waste so much money on so many things. You know what? It's a good start. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep chipping.
I think it's fantastic. On your point about, let's come back in sort of into the Democrat opposition here in a second, because I think this is where I always try to be like pessimistic about the prospects of the right, but right now I'm looking around and I just see so much incompetence and everything on the left. It's madness. All right, we'll come back to that in a second. Bear Creek Arsenal is our sponsor here. They make great guns. I've been out at the range. I was just out this past weekend actually with my Grizzly, my 9mm, and I am pinging steel at 50 yards with iron sights on that Grizzly like it's nobody's business. It feels great in my hands. Really allows me to get that grip to stabilize every round I put down range. I've got a great hold on that gun. Super easy to clean, super easy to fire. Go see they've got every caliber you can imagine. Bear Creek Arsenal, uppers, lowers, a great American gun company based in North Carolina. I know the founders. I know the people running it day in and day out. They're 2A guys and gals. They stand with you. Go get your next AR. Go get your next upper from Bear Creek Arsenal. Go to bearcreekarsenal.com/buck. bearcreekarsenal.com/buck. Take 10% off your order with my first name, Buck, as your coupon code. That's bearcreekarsenal.com/buck. 10% off with my first name, Buck, as your coupon code. So what are the Democrats really planning to do here? Is it just going to be judges way overreach their authority to tell the executive branch what it can and can't do that's clearly within its purview, hope that it takes a while for the Supreme Court to overturn them, and this just keeps happening and happening, and then Democrats, talk about Obamacare for the midterms? I I don't even know who we're supposed to be arguing with right now, David. It's really more mockery. It's like what we're talking about with DOGE. They want government to spend hundreds of billions of dollars that are illegal or going into a black hole somewhere. It's nuts.
And also, this constitutional crisis talking point they have. I mean, the truth of the matter is that even if it were true, and I don't think it is in this case, they have no credibility on that issue. They've spent 20 years destroying separation of powers. They've had presidents ignoring the Supreme Court left and right. So they have no credibility on that, and everyone knows it. I feel like my main criticism of today's Republican Party is that they've moved a little to the far left, too far to the left for me on certain issues, right? But so they've actually taken all the ground. I mean, someone was asking me, do I think that that the Democrats are going to go back to class warfare because all this kind of racialist stuff hasn't worked? How can they actually go back? How are they going to go back to that? I mean, I think that the populist right has taken that issue. I just don't even know where Democrats can really go unless Trump does some, oversteps in some way that's going to hurt, the economy or something like that. And, whatever that could happen, could not. But other than that, I don't really see what issue they have to even grab onto it all. I don't see it. So I don't know what's going to happen. But let's talk. You mentioned, we talked about Obama, 2008. The Tea Party came in 2 years and ended Obama, basically. So you always have to be careful. Nothing lasts forever. So in a sense, I'm happy that the Trump administration, the stuff they're doing with DOGE, which I actually like, I'm happy that they're doing it so quickly and so much before there's some kind of backlash or whatever. Get as much done as you can.
What are you going to write on this week for the Washington Examiner, or maybe for next week for your column?
I just wrote on the constitutional
crisis that they're talking about. The crisis that isn't.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, these judges, they have to be stopped. Maybe we need reform. I wrote about that just now. And the next thing I'm going to write about is a little bit about the paradox within MAGA, where you have Elon Musk putting up Milton Friedman quotes and stuff like that. But you have a lot of sort of populists who want more, a different kind of control over the economy. And I think at some point that might come to a head. I don't know.
Yeah. The debate within the party feels more important than the debate between the parties right now, because it's it's the Republicans' field for the next 18 months for sure. Check out David's column and give him a follow on X. And Mr. Harsanyi, always a pleasure, sir. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.